Hey there, thanks so much for being with me today. Today we are going to be talking about stress, depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD. Now, of course, in the brief time we have together, it's going to be a very high level overview, right? And that's a really important thing for you to remember is that in this short time, we can't get deep into this, but I'll introduce it to you and give you that real high level surface perspective of this. I would love it if everybody who is with us would just post a comment in the chat box. And let's start with letting me know, do you have any iridology training already under your belt? And if you're one of my students, you can say yes, because I know you're in process. So do you have training, any iridology training under your belt already? When I know what the background is, then it helps me to shape how we are going to present the information today. So we've got a few that are willing to say that, yes, they've got some training. That's great. Thank you for playing with me in my sandbox. What you'll find is the more you interact with me in the chat box, the more you'll get out of me. Just saying. The comments really fuel me and give me energy to keep moving. So we've got a lot of people have some background. Some of you are quite new to it. Some of you are just hanging out with me in these webinars. So this is good. This is good because if you're hanging out with me in these webinars, you're getting the straight goods. You're not getting anything that's been warped or distorted or that is just merely a belief. All right, so I think it's really important that you know where I'm coming from and how I got to where I'm at, because what you're going to get today, even though it's a high level overview, is not what is taught in most iridology courses that are out there. So I am an IPA certified iridology instructor. I've been studying iridology since 1979. And so I've been at this for a long time. I've studied a lot of different styles. I've abandoned a lot of what I learned in the early days. And I'm now very comfortable and very confident and always striving to add to my knowledge base. But the core of it now is constitutional iridology. I started also in 79, started studying herbs and nutrition. I started teaching courses locally in the early 1980s. There was almost nothing available here. And there were books, but there were no courses, and people were hungry. It was the leading edge of the holistic health movement. I mean, back then, I think there were 2 health food stores in Calgary, and Calgary was a city of about 400,000 at that point in time. It's now a city of 1.5 million, and there's a health food store in every corner. I've been a certified iridologist through the International Iridology Practitioners Association since 1993. And I certified as an instructor with them in 2015. As an instructor, we have to do upgrade hours, and we have to keep our skills current. And IPA issues us a badge every 2 years when we renew and prove that we are staying up to date on the research and what's going on. So I am now one of only 6 level 3 certified instructors in the world. That is the highest level that IPA offers to date. Over the years that I've been involved in teaching, I've written many books. There's only one of them that is still currently available, and it is only available to my students. It is the Dynamic Iridology textbook. I've also created and taught all kinds of herbal courses and lots of biokinesiology and color therapy courses. And I was a certified prenatal educator for a few years. So I've designed and taught prenatal classes. And of course, my passion now is teaching iridology and anything that I can barnacle onto the sides of iridology. I am also a certified nutrition professional, and I'm associated with 2 different professional organizations here in Canada called the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals and the Canadian Association of Natural Nutrition Practitioners. And I am also a master herbalist affiliated with the Alberta Herbalist Association. And I think that's really an important thing to know, because so many people think that when they learn iridology, they can just practice iridology. And that's not really an accurate statement, because when we learn iridology, we learn how to assess where the strengths and weaknesses are. But knowing iridology doesn't necessarily help you understand what you need to teach your client to help them improve their health. And this is where the modalities come in. So if you're in those early stages of thinking, oh, I want to learn iridology, you're really critical to have an anatomy and physiology program under your belt already, because then you will be able to go much deeper with iridology. And really important to have a modality as well. I think herbs and nutrition are the perfect adjuncts to iridology, and you don't need both. You could start with just one and maybe add the other over time. But you've got to know how to advise, what to advise your clients so that they can actually take action on their health, right? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, that anatomy and physiology and having a modality with iridology are a good idea, give me a makes sense in the comments box. Let me know that that makes sense to you. Yeah, totally agree. Makes sense. Fantastic. This is so good. So good. I've actually had people come to me who have studied iridology, did not have anatomy and physiology, and did not have a modality. And they've come to me saying, how do I start a business? Well, you can't, right? You've got to have all the pieces in place. All right. So I just want to plant a seed here, get you thinking about this. And that is that the next go round of dynamic iridology starts on June 8th. So if you are a health professional, that could be a herbalist, a nutrition coach, a naturopath, chiropractor, medical doctor, a registered nurse. If you've got anatomy and physiology under your belt, that's what I'm really looking for. And you want to learn iridology at a very deep professional level. If you want to learn how to think through what you see in an eye, not just to say one mark equals one problem, but you want to learn how to combine things and really understand, then you are in the right place, because this course that is starting on the 28th goes deep like that. If you're not a health professional and you don't have that foundation in anatomy and physiology, and you want to get that so that you can come into a course like mine, or better yet, come into my course, reach out to me and I will connect you with the A&P course that I have the utmost of respect for. It's a course that's hard. You will sweat bullets. You will probably say some really bad things about me while you're doing the course, and I didn't design the course and I don't make money from promoting the course, but you'll probably really not like me while you're in the course. But when you finally power through and you finish the course, you're going to agree with me that it was the best first move you could have made. All right. So as we're starting to look at eyes on our next slide, I want you to remember that seeing a particular marking in an iris is not a guarantee that a person's going to have a problem. It is simply an indication that the person has an inherent predisposition. Genetically, they are coded to go that direction, right? But we have many things that influence how our genes play out. So seeing a marker does not guarantee a problem. The flip side of that is not seeing a marker also does not guarantee a problem, or the lack of a problem, rather. Not seeing a marker does not guarantee the lack of a problem, because you can take somebody who is robust and strong and their body really wants to be well, but you can abuse that body for a long time and break it down to where it has problems. So as we look at these indicators, we need to remember that we always need context. We need to know, what are the client's symptoms? We need to know, what are the client's goals? Also helpful to know a bit of family history here. All right. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take a look at contraction furrows and learn a tiny bit about them. These rings that are coming around the eye going this way, these are called contraction furrows. Now, those of you who've already got some iridology under your belt, what are some other names you've seen these things called? What are some other things you've seen these things called? Stress rings, that's a really common one. Stress circles, that's really common. Anything else? Stress rings is what we're working with here. Fantastic. Now, we're going to debunk some myths about these. When I first learned iridology, I was taught that these meant the person was currently under stress, under a lot of stress. And if they didn't resolve that stress soon, they were going to have a nervous breakdown. Nothing could be further from the truth. In order for us to understand what these rings really are, we need to look at some eye anatomy. So this is not a great iridology photo, but what I want to show you is we're going to look at a cross section of the eye. So it's like we're going to cut the iris right here and tip it on its end. So if this was a donut, you're going to slice the donut and look at one of those cut ends of the donut. Okay, this is an important thing to remember, because as we're looking at that cut side of the iris, so the pupil is sitting right here. This is one side of the iris. This is the side that faces out to the world. This is the side that is either blue or brown or something in between. This is the side that's facing into that posterior chamber of the eyeball. And so what we're looking at is we're looking for this dip, this kind of a dip here. And this image is actually not totally correct, because if there's a dip in that anterior surface, there's also a dip in the posterior surface. So it's like you've got a whole bunch of layers of fabric stacked up, and if you squish them together like an accordion, all of the layers are going to form the same wrinkles. That's exactly what happens with your eye. This is not cast in stone. This wrinkle won't be there if there's no wrinkle here. But as the pupil gets larger, it compresses the iris. As the iris compresses, we see wrinkles form in the iris tissue. Okay. When the pupil gets smaller, we see the iris tissue stretch out, and that flattens all of the tissue. So it's kind of like an accordion. When you compress an accordion, the pleats in the bellows get very deep. When you stretch the accordion out, the pleats in the bellows flatten out. If that makes sense to you, give me a 1 in the comments box. Give me a number 1 in the comments box. 1, it's making sense. Fantastic. So what we want to remember, I love this. I love that that makes sense. What we want to remember is the pupil is under influence from light. Dim light makes it bigger, bright light makes it smaller. The pupil is also under influence from the nervous system. The more stressed we are, the bigger our pupils get to increase our peripheral vision, so we don't have to look over our shoulder so far to see the bear that's chasing us. Right? And your body doesn't know if the stress from an unpaid bill, if it's the stress from an unpaid bill, from a bear chasing you, from your house burning down. Your nervous system doesn't know that. It just knows that there's stress. And so when we're under stress, the pupil gets big, the iris compresses, and we get those rings forming in the iris. Here is a fantastic example of what I'm talking about. The next 3 photos we're going to look at are the very same person, their photos taken the same day, back to back with the same camera. What I changed on these was I changed the shutter speed. So this is really important. You know, when you see before and after photos of iridology on social media, oh, look at my eyes now, they're so much better. I did blah, 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 I did all this anti-fasting and cleansing, and look at it's all cleaned up, and blah, blah, these things are all going away. Bohunk, garbage, awful information, because you're going to see how different things look when we change just the shutter speed, just the amount of light hitting the eye. Now, I put this one in here because this is someone who I know very well. It's somebody in my family. And this is the size her pupils were until she turned about 21. She doesn't do drugs, very clean living, very, very much riddled with anxiety, right? Very much riddled with anxiety. And so, but I needed to see what was happening in the iris tissue as well. So this tells me nervous system is on high alert. Okay. And hopefully you've got your A&P under your belt, and you know that that means adrenal stress. Adrenals are going to be struggling with that. This is the same eye, brighter light. So we now have 2 focus lights on and a slower shutter speed, so that we have more light hitting the eye. Okay, so it's a brighter image, and we can now see the fiber structure. But here again, we need to know photography. You didn't know you'd need to know that to do iridology well, did you? That's a bonus piece of information, because Look what happens when we turn off one of the lights. When we've got both lights on, it fills in shadows. When we turn off one light, now we suddenly see contraction furrows. Do you see the difference between those two photos, those last two photos? Here, where it looks like, oh, she's fine, no contraction furrows. To here, oh, she's got lots of contraction furrows. If you can see that, give me the word photo in the comments box. That you can see the difference the lighting makes as far as the details we see. Just give me the word photo. Fantastic. Fantastic. So this is really important. And most of those before and after pictures that you see on social media do not take into account the difference in the photographic techniques that were used. And sometimes they even used photographic tricks to alter an end result to make it look like they were getting those kinds of results. So what this tells us is this young lady internalizes her stress very deeply. This is my daughter, actually, my youngest daughter, and her nickname is Drama Queen. Every little thing that goes wrong in her day is a life-changing crisis. I have learned that when she gets home from work, my office door is right by where she comes into the house, right by the back door. So she comes in 9 times out of 10. If my office door is open, she plunks herself down in one of my client chairs and she unloads her entire day. She comes in irritable, grouchy, defensive, and she leaves laughing and smiling, right? Because she's internalized her stress, but she has let it go. Let it go. Now, these wrinkles don't tell us that she is under stress. These wrinkles tell us that her pupil has spent a lot of time doing this, and that has put creases that are not reversible, that we will never completely iron out in her iris. That tells us she lives in the sympathetic response, which tells us she internalizes her stress. That tells us that she will overreact when under stress. It tells us there are specific nutrients she needs to get on a consistent daily basis. It tells me junk food is not her friend. Some people can get away with it a little bit, not this girl, because junk food crowds out the space for good nutrients. And also she's probably learned some bad coping skills, right? How many of you have noticed that this younger generation, I'm going to say the generation of 15 to 25-year-olds, don't seem to be very resilient in the face of stress? Have you noticed that? If you've noticed that, just give me a yes in the comments box. That as a general rule, they seem to be a little more brittle, or a lot more brittle. They seem to have unrealistic expectations of what life is supposed to be. And they really don't get it, that life is ups and downs. And it's how you learn to manage both the highs and the lows that determines how you travel. Yeah, you're seeing that too. Good. It's not just me. Fantastic. This is the eye of a 4-year-old child. Now notice that even with frontal lighting, we can see lots of contraction furrows in here. I would be worried about this in anybody who has this many contraction furrows, but I'm not worried about this little girl. And the reason I'm not worried about this little girl is because her parents, before they conceived her and when they were pregnant with her, and even just afterwards, went through some really rough spots. And that's not necessarily what put these in here. These formed actually prenatally in the uterus, right? Why I'm not worried about her is because both of her parents are very nutrition conscious. They have developed into that. And both of them have actually taken training to be life coaches. One of them is working to get out of her current employment and into being a life coach. The other one has found his perfect job where he can just do his job and just be chill and have a life to boot. And so they teach their daughter coping skills. They nourish her well. They teach her coping skills. They've taught her the value of having alone time, the value of talking about things with someone you trust. And it's delightful the way they are taking the garbage they went through and the way they've learned from it and use that to turn themselves around and move forward. Really exciting to see that. So I'm not concerned about this little girl, not at all. And so we are good there. This is that little girl. These are her parents. This is her dad, and this is her mom. All right. So when we look at the dad's eyes, he also has contraction furrows, which is one of the reasons, he really overreacted to stress as a youth and as a teenager. Mom also really reacted to stress as a youth and a teenager. So that's the genes that they passed on to their child, right? And knowing that is absolutely brilliant, because it means, like I said, the parents have learned skills that they are passing those on to their children, onto her as well. And that is serving her very well. And the fact that, again, they're very nutrition conscious. Dad trained as a chef. Here in Canada, we have specific training. And when you achieve certain levels, you get different seals. So he achieved his red seal, which means he is recognized as a chef across Canada. It's not like he just worked in a fast food prep line, right? And so he knows quality of food. He knows how to get good produce and things like that. So they eat primarily organically. They eat as a family. They've got a lot of good things going that will help to reduce the risk of these contraction furrows ever being an issue for this little girl. Learn the skills when you're young and you are miles ahead. This is another little girl. She's a third generation client. I took care of her grandma when her grandma was having children. Then I've taken care of both of the daughters in that family. And this is the grandchild that came from one of those daughters. So this is little Violet. When she was 2 years old, her mommy brought her to me and said, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this little girl. Oh my goodness, she's having meltdowns and she can scream for like 6 hours nonstop. She can't seem to self-regulate and calm down and get it together. We can't distract her. If she's going to scream, she is just going to scream. And we haven't found a way to break these tantrums." So when we see contraction furrows, they tell us that her body burns through B vitamins, vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium at record speed. And if those are deficient, coping mechanisms go out the window. Like we're talking gonzo and not coming back right away. So I know this family well because, again, I've been with them for 3 generations. I know the diet. This girl's mom wrote a best-selling cookbook, right? And it's not junky food. It's their family, I want to say, is Ukrainian. And so it's traditional Ukrainian recipes with a healthy twist, right? And so everything is from scratch. Everything is organic. Everything is local. Food is really good. So as we talked, we discovered that one of the key things is that this little girl was eating way too much fruit, not enough vegetables. Okay, so that's going to be a problem. But we also then did something very simple. These little girls have been raised on herbal supplements. Giving them supplements is not a problem. And we just simply added a very high quality liquid B complex to her diet. A little bit of that every day. Literally within about a week, the mom sent me an email and said, "Oh my goodness, thank you. I have my little girl back. I can now reason with her. She's really good about, I can distract her if things aren't going well. Things are going so much better." Simple solution for that little girl. Now, it's important to remember that these marks don't say she is deficient. They say she burns through those nutrients quickly. And what that means is then we need to ask the questions to find out, could she be deficient? This is where understanding anatomy and physiology and maybe having nutrition or herbology under your belt helps the iridology to guide the questions you need to ask so you can extract the right information to create the best protocol, right? So it's never one marking equals one sign, one problem. It's one marking gives us some questions, but we need a whole lot more information to come up with what we want to do. All right, just want to share with you some things that some of my students who just recently graduated, they're actually working on certification. So these are fresh testimonials. Kimberly Zadalis is a radiology technician, and she's got a really strong holistic background. She posted this on the IPA, on the International Iridology Practitioners Association website. If you are wondering which iridology course to take, you can stop looking. You found it. Judith Cobb is an excellent instructor with many years of experience. She is a caring and compassionate person who is dedicated to the field of iridology and her students. I personally practice both Eastern and Western physiology medicine and was very impressed with the layout of her program. She makes it easy for her students to balance work, life, and study. Kimberly's actually, I think, doing her final certification exam tomorrow. So with any luck, by this time tomorrow, we will have one more certified iridologist through IPA. This is Karen Choate. She said this: Judith Cobb has been one of the teachers who's made a difference in my life. She's a born teacher, meaning she has incredible knowledge to share in her field of expertise, patience with her students, whether you are completely new to the field or a person who has taken iridology courses with other teachers, and most importantly, the passion to ensure all of her students are well-versed, comfortable with what they've learned, and are poised for success. And just jumping down, I began implementing what I had learned in her course into my practice before I had even finished her classes, and it has been an invaluable tool in my office. I cannot say enough about Judith and any course that she teaches. And if you're considering studying iridology, look no further. Love that. I love my students. I truly do. The caring that I show them is not a put on. It's my goal is their success. This is a young boy, came to me at the age of 10. His parents brought him to me because the teachers had requested that he be seen by the school psychologist and assessed for ADD, ADHD. So when we're talking about ADD, ADHD, it is a very complex problem. And it is so much more than just one marking. Although what I will tell you is predominantly when I see ADD, ADHD in anyone, they often have contraction furrows. What other nutrients beyond vitamin B, vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium do you know are important for the nervous system? What other kinds of things do people need to keep their nervous system functioning well and balanced? Minerals, yeah. Minerals in general, absolutely. What else do they need? Anything else that you know of? See, this is, iron is important. Absolutely. Iron can be very important. Again, we want to balance that. Kathy says fats. Love that, Kathy. Absolutely. Fats are so important here. Getting the right fats and oils into the diet. Excellent. Now, this is actually how I teach my classes as well, is when we are learning about a marker, I ask my students questions. I want to draw out what do they know and get them beginning to integrate their previous knowledge and training with iridology so that they see iridology is not a standalone, right? Iridology requires more things in it. So omega-3 fatty acids specifically, I'm going to play with Kathy's suggestion, really important when we're looking at ADD, ADHD. And then I want a nervine of some kind. I want something that helps us to regulate the nervous system. Two of my favorites here are lemon balm and chamomile, in part because they both taste pretty good. So if this is a child who maybe doesn't swallow capsules yet, and I need to do this in a tincture or I need to give it in a tea form, I can because they taste all right. I see indicators. If I see indicators that suggest the liver is out of balance, as it often is when we have contraction first, so other markers, I might add liver support. Now, why would I want to support the liver when the nervous system is what seems to be out of balance? How are those two things connected? How are those two things connected? How do we connect liver to nervous system physiologically in the body? What does the liver do that impacts the nervous system? There's one specific thing that the liver does that the nervous system has to have. Well, there's probably two or three, but there's one that I'm after right now. Okay. I think I've stumped you here. The liver takes the carbohydrates and converts them into cholesterol. Cholesterol is required to make neurotransmitters. If we don't have neurotransmitters balanced, we're going to see ADHD, we might see depression, we might see heightened anxiety. We're going to see possibly a whole variety of mental health imbalances. And so we need to make sure the liver is working well. The liver also breaks down neurotransmitters and hormones after they've done their job. It also helps to detoxify everything that we don't need that ends up inside us. And if we're not breaking those things down and excreting them, they can build up to levels that can impede the proper functioning of other things in the body. So we need to make sure that we are, again, connecting the dots. So with this young boy, we had to do a lot of diet work. The beautiful thing about his appointments were both his mother and his father came to every appointment. This little boy has one sibling. And so as we talked about how this boy's food choices needed to change, the whole family changed with him, which was great because it was just improving everybody's nutrition across the board, right? So we did that. We got him using omegas. We got him using B vitamins. We used a few other things with him as well. And we had him to where his mother and father and teachers noticed the difference in his behavior, significant improvement. Sadly, so he was in the 5th grade when I met him. When he went into 7th grade, which is where junior high starts in Alberta for most school districts, his parents opted to put him on Ritalin because they didn't know if they could help him to understand the importance of the nutrition throughout his junior high and high school years. Totally broke my heart because we saw such good changes. This is one eye of a boy who was 12 years old when we took this. So this is a picture of 6 years old. Very healthy, very active, very smart, top of the class at the age of 12. Excellent athlete, involved in lots of sports. His mother is very nutrition conscious, and his parents are very aware of the need to get rest and relaxation. So while this young boy is very athletically active, was an excellent student in school, they would plan the family schedule around his demands, his and his brother's demands. So if they knew there were soccer tournaments coming up that were going to be high stress, they would back off other demands that they would put on them. If they knew that there were school projects and final exams and exam season coming up, they would back off of other things so that the children wouldn't end up overloaded. And, they would make sure that there was playtime as well. Now this young man is 18 years of age, and he's done very well until just a few months ago. We are now starting to see, as he is ending, he's in his last semester of high school. He actually has his diploma already. He did summer school a couple of years to get ahead of things. So he's got all of the credits he needs to graduated with top grades, but in this final semester that he doesn't really need, he is actually now sinking into some depressive tendencies. And so if I had input here, which I have a little bit, this would be, again, I would be really encouraging some good B vitamins, some vitamin C, some calcium, and some magnesium. I would be encouraging them to, because he's 18, he's got his own money a little bit. He's kind of out there eating some junk food more than he probably should be. I would be just reinstilling that the nutrition that happens at home needs to be even better than the very, very good that it was before. That we need to get the protein, we need to get the vegetables, we need to be really supporting him. Now, this is his younger brother who's 2 years younger. So these were taken when this young boy was 10 years old. Pretty much the same qualities, personality-wise and activity-wise, as active in sports, very, very, very good student. And the big difference is older brother is an omnivore, younger brother is a vegetarian. Now, when I hear people being vegetarian, especially when children say, I want to be a vegetarian, I cringe, only because children don't understand what that means. They think they're just not going to eat meat and they're just going to eat carrots and cabbage for the rest of their life, kind of thing, right? But his mother was really brilliant, and she said, if you're going to be a vegetarian, I'm going to be one with you, but I'm going to learn how to do it. So she did a ton of research, and out of the evening meals, probably 3 nights a week are strictly vegetarian, where it's the lentils, the legumes, combining the grains with the beans kinds of things to make sure that there's enough complete amino acid profiles there. And on days when there is meat, the meat is a side dish, and the rest of the meal is vegetarian. So it's vegetarian plus a meat for the omnivores in the family. She's done an absolutely beautiful job of regulating the diet and making sure that these boys, these growing boys, got the protein they needed. This young man is now 16, 17, 16, I think, and he's doing very, very well. He's finishing up grade 11, and we just saw them last weekend. Very pleasant young man, very pleasant. His older brother was very pleasant too, until he started to slide into this little funk. So again, we just want to watch the nutrition on this family level to make sure that these boys are getting what they need as they go through those difficult transition years of finishing up high school and getting on with what comes next. Oh, another one of my students, this is Selena McKenzie. She said, I just wanted to take a moment of your time to put in a huge thank you out there. I've been learning so much. She wrote this about 4 weeks into her course. She's now finished the classwork and is working on certification. First few weeks of class, and it's been a true blessing. As an educator in my field of study, I feel as though I've taken so many continuing ed courses, and I really appreciate your detailed course. I particularly enjoy being able to review the many videos throughout my busy work week. I've always learned best by audio and really feel that it's the glue in your course for me. I'm super excited to see what's in store in the coming weeks. I'm so looking forward to being able to build this amazing process into my practice. I think it'll be well received by all of my clients, young and old. Love that. Thank you, Selena. This was a woman who was in her mid-40s. Again, we've got the frontal lighting. So the fact that we can actually see contraction froze says she's got a lot of them. She's got a lot of them. Remember, these formed prenatally. They formed when she was gestating as a result of what her mom's hormones and her own hormones were doing, and that primed her endocrine system for how it was going to handle stress and her nervous system. Now, she's had a ton of stress in her life. And one of the things that has been most stressful for her is that from her early 30s to mid 40s, when we took this photo, the doctors could not decide what the heck they were doing with her. She would have an MRI because she had really wonky symptoms. And one doctor would say, well, this is MS. And another doctor would say, no, it's not MS. And so back and forth every couple of years, another MRI and another conflicting diagnosis. How stressful would that be? Right? They can't make up their minds what they're doing. So no one's creating a protocol for her. So we actually, with her, and I've lost track of her life really, really hit some rough spots after that. And I've lost track of her. but we had created a protocol for her to support the nervous system, to support the myelin sheath on her nerves in case it was MS, because she had a lot of the symptoms, and really were working hard before she disappeared and fell off the radar. This is a young man in his mid-20s when we took these photos. Strong history of anxiety and depression. Really poor diet. He's Asian. And what I see with people who are first or second generation Asians that come to North America is they keep the worst parts of the Asian diet, the white rice, the sugary sauces, the high refined carbs, and they combine it with the worst of what we have in North America. I've never had an Asian client who came in eating whole grain brown rice. It's always white rice. Never seen them come in eating lots of vegetables without the sugary sauces. Their diets are always atrocious. So poor diet, high in refined carbs, very inactive lifestyle. He's an online gamer and he's an insurance agent. So he's on the phone and behind a computer all day, every day. And in his downtime, he's watching television or he's gaming, right? So there's no physical activity at all. Again, the eyes don't tell us that he's under stress, but his symptoms sure do. When I see him, and again, he's a family member, so he's not a client, so I can't really tell him what to do, right? So I work with his wife a little bit and I teach her a little bit about what to do, and she kind of gets this in on him. What the contraction throws teach us is that he internalizes his stress, and especially will internalize it if his nutrition is not where it belongs. All right, and so I've been working with the wife. We've now got it to where this fellow eats vegetables. You have no idea, when I heard that, how shocked I was that he will ask for second helpings of steamed vegetables and second helpings of salad. He actually likes raw and lightly cooked vegetables. Fantastic, right? Because that crowds out a little bit of the room for the junk food. It's a start. If you start, it's a bit of a start. So that is really just, again, a high-level overview of one of the markings that teaches us about the nervous system and that can suggest that a person might be more prone to feeling stress, to anxiety, to depression, to ADD, ADHD. Here's what one of my other students said. Joyce Lee is a clinical aromatherapist and a herbalist. She had taken an iridology course from another school a few years ago, but was left feeling inadequately trained and had no confidence in what she learned. She knew she couldn't use it. Judith Cobb, on the other hand, is a wonderful instructor. She presents the material in this course in a concise, organized way. She clearly answers every question asked, no matter how trivial the student may think it is. Judith structures the classes in a way that makes them incredibly interesting. Clarification is clearly established through her instruction, discussion, and student participation. Upon completion of Judith's course, I feel very confident in my abilities and excited to offer iridology services to my clients. This course is an incredible value, highly recommended. So if you are looking towards taking an iridology course, maybe you're ready to get serious about looking at a course, maybe you want to get enrolled right away, let me just see if I can entice you a little bit, right? The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System for Health Professionals course is the only live online, fully mentored course for holistic healthcare professionals, and it will help you streamline your coursework. If you find that you see a client, gather information, go off, spend a few hours of your own time creating a protocol to either email to your client or to deliver to them at their next appointment, we're going to cut out that homework time. I'm going to teach you in this course how to use iridology to gather the information you need and decide what are the next couple of things your client needs to do to move their health forward. And do that every appointment that you see that client. So you're never snowballing your client with too much information. You are giving them manageable, doable, logical steps to work on, right? You're building their program because we don't want you putting in unpaid overtime creating programs. that cuts into your income. It cuts into your joy ultimately. We don't want to overwhelm our clients. An overwhelmed client is a client who does not take action, won't get results, and will not chat you up to their coworkers and friends. We want to make sure that the programs we are completing creating for our clients actually lead to client compliance, that they go, I can do that. They implement it, they get the results for doing that. So we can then build on that foundation, because that is what leads to success and long-term retention. We saw a third generation client here. That's 40 years of working with that family. 40 years. How would you like to have clients with you, have clients and their families with you for more than 1 year, for more than 2 years, for like 10 years, 20 years? I've got a lot of clients who've been with me for 20 to 40 years. Would that work for you in your business? If that would, give me business in the comments box. If that's what you want, is long-term relationships with your clients, give me the word business in comments if that's where you want to head. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So Monica says, if the course is live online and I'm 7 hours behind and I couldn't be joining you each time, Monica, that's a brilliant, brilliant question. You are not alone. For my clients who are in distant time zones, a couple of things, because the next course is going to be late afternoon my time. I'm just going to double check that to make sure I'm not making things up here. Let me just get there. Yeah, it's going to be evening my time, so it would be middle of the night for you. Every class session is recorded and is loaded up to your student site. So you can actually view every class after it happens. We also have a social media group on the MeWe platform. All of my students and grads are invited to ask questions, post cases, make comments, and interact in that MeWe community. We also, twice each month, have a live office hour session. One of those sessions is at 11 a.m. my time, which would put it to 6 p.m. your time. So at least once a month, you can get live interactive feedback, right? And here's the beautiful thing for my students. The office hours, live mentoring sessions, and the MeWe group, you will have access to those after you finish the course, after you certify, 5 years from now. As long as I'm teaching, that support is available to my students and my grads. So even if you're 7 hours behind, I've had students in Slovenia. They weren't going to get up at 2 a.m. I had a student who just lives north of me by a few hours, but her work schedule meant that she could never make it to class. She completed the entire class. Both of these students have completed the entire class just the way I've described to you. I actually currently have another student in Slovenia who is doing it using the recordings and pops into the MeWe group and onto the early office hours when she needs to. Right? Tons of support for you no matter where you live. Isn't that the beautiful thing about the internet? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing though, you only get to enroll in this course if I talk to you. I only take in a maximum of 10 students per course. And so I need to talk to you to make sure this is a good fit, to make sure that we get along well, to check with you to make sure you have the anatomy and physiology, because I will not take you in the course if you don't have anatomy and physiology under your belt. Now, you might be a registered nurse. That's great. That counts. If you've got anatomy and physiology as a separate course on a transcript and you can show that you got a grade of better than 80%, we can get you enrolled in the program. So this is the link, and I'm just putting that into, there we go, into the chat box. If you have anatomy and physiology under your belt, if you want details about an iridology course and you want to talk to me about mine, you want to see if this is a good fit for you, that link that I just posted into the chat box is how you schedule a Zoom meeting to meet with me so we can talk about the course, and I can give you all of the other details about the course when we meet. No one gets into this course without talking to me. And no one gets into the course without having anatomy and physiology under their belt first. So if you need the A&P, shoot me a message. I'll send you that link. You can get that course done. If you settle into it and get it done like an hour a day, might be an hour and a half a day, you can have it done in time to be in the June start date for dynamic iridology. All right. So absolutely, I've got all of your bases covered for supporting you for learning, whether you live in North America or whether you live internationally. I've had students in Australia as well, the UK, Europe, and Australia. I haven't had anyone from South America yet. Waiting to have one of those. But I would love to chat with you, and let's see if this is a good fit. Let's see if it will work for you. And if it will, and if it's a good fit, I will invite you to enroll. If it's not a good fit, if I get that feeling that this isn't the right course or it's not the right time, I will be honest with you and I will tell you that I don't think this is the right place for you right now. Might be in the future, but right now I think you're better off going in a different direction, or getting that A&P or whatever, because my goal again is not to enroll as many people as I can and just rake in the dough and just let you fall by the wayside. You can't hack it, not my problem. My goal is your success as a student. And you saw that in the testimonials, that my goal is for you to not only be proficient, but confident. So you can use iridology for your business's best success and for your client's best success. All righty. So ready to wrap up here. Are there any questions? I want to thank you for the comments and the interplay you had with me in the chat box. That really, it just fuels me to know that you're actually paying attention and you're absorbing information. So thank you for that. Do you have any other questions or comments before we wrap up? Those of you who have registered for this, you will receive the replay. It'll come out tomorrow for you. So there we go. Could I get the replay of this? I was too busy this morning to join the webinar. Megan, absolutely. You will get the replay tomorrow. Okay. You're welcome, Lacey. You're welcome. Good to have you here. You're welcome, Megan. Fantastic. So hopefully I will be chatting with some of you on Zoom meetings to talk about the course and to get you set up for the direction you want to head with this. And yeah, look forward to speaking with you soon. Take good care. Bye for now.